Okay, having said all of this, let's look at the tips for writing a good discussion. Here are the tips I want to give you. First, do prepare an outline for writing. You know this already. Okay, remember, outline is a test of writing readiness. Second, do summarize your findings rather than simply repeat them. The worst thing is that you repeat what you say in results section. You should give a briefer, more concise description of what you state or what you write in the results section. And thirdly, do interpret your findings in concise languages rather than in elaborate languages. And fourthly, do explain your findings in relation to the relevant theories you review or compose in your introduction, or you find a new theory that explains your study and you want to do the theoretical exploration of your findings accordingly. And the fifth, do highlight significance of finding in comparison with findings of previous studies. Your study result or finding does not stand alone. You should put them in a comparative perspective. And number 6, do discuss problems of your study in the section of limitations and the future direction of research. You know why? It is because if you discuss the problems too early, that means your study is not so good. But if you phrase them or discuss them in future direction of research, it makes the whole discussion more coherent. So keep this in mind. Having said all of this, I also want you to know that there are some commonly used phrases for discussion writing. Let's just look at some of this. I hope you'll keep in mind, as I said in the last talk, adding to your magic phrases list. This can be attributed to this finding, or whatever can be attributed to a cultural appreciation of diversity in creativity embedded, blah, blah, blah. And these cultural differences are attributed to, blah, blah, blah. A possible explanation could be that, blah, blah, blah. Humor styles could be found to account for, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is like some of the statements that use. And you can see as the Chinese culture has been biased against humor for thousands of years due to blah, blah, blah. And this could be due to the fact of blah, blah, blah. Certain an utilitarian view of creativity could lead to a cluster of syndromes in teaching blah, blah, blah. And it can be argued that the attribution of whoever is influential, creative, is responsible for a cluster of syndromes, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm just giving you some of what I would say the expressive expressions or magic phrases to express. And of course, you can keep on collecting them. And the common users look at some of the commonly used phrases for highlighting your findings. The study recognized the need to explore differences in blah, blah, blah. Taken together, we hoped to find consistent findings for blah, blah, blah. The study attempts to explore the underlying reasons for blah, blah, blah. In conclusions, the paper proposed to differentiate blah, blah, blah. Of course, I don't have to bubble on. I'm just giving you an example. I hope you'll keep in mind. Writing really touches on using the right word or the right phrases. This is what I call the magic phrase list. And it really is painstaking to collect them, to practice them, and finally, you're going to write beautiful English, colorful English. That's how you accomplish. And talking about a colorful English for academic writing, I want to have a quote for you. This is how it reads. Writing needs to be dramatic. A writer needs to tell an exciting story, even though it is academic writing. This is said by a retired professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Michael Bond. And here is his book. Many years ago, when I was a junior staff at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, I went to see him for his wisdom on writing. And he read my manuscript and gave me this comment. Xiaodong, your paper reads too flat. It does not appeal to readers. It's boring. It's dull to read your paper. You should try to look for something that is controversial, that is stimulating, and your answer could create some sort of a dramatic effect. I don't understand. Ask me, what do you mean by dramatic effect? Well, it basically means when everybody says yes, you find a no. When everybody says no, you find a yes. It's like a trauma. So you didn't expect the results to come. You don't have some sense of humor in the finding. So for all these years, I've been trying to look for this kind of a dramatic effect in writing. And I pose this question for you to pursue in your own writing. How can you write something that is so dramatic and also so interesting? Well, I have about one paper that I can share with you that is close to creating that dramatic effect. And this is the paper I wrote. Well, basically, the paper is called Humor Styles, Creativity, Personality Traits, and Creative Thinking in a Hong Kong Sample. Well, in this study, I was trying to pursue a dramatic effect in the writing research because traditionally, in studies of Western society, humor and creativity are highly correlated. Basically, there was a one-to-one relationship between them. There was humor in creativity, there was creativity in humor. Okay. But for the Chinese, it's a different story. There was not such a parallel relationship between humor and creativity. And you know why? Because in our Chinese society, even though we value creativity, we do not value humor that much because of the Confucian Puritanism that has been excised, that has been practiced for thousands of years. And this is the theme of argument for this paper and also for some other papers. So what is true in one culture and society may not be true in another culture, in another society. And this is what I call dramatic effect. Well, I'm just sharing with you. You don't have to read my article, but you remember what I say for you, because it's not just from me, but it's from a senior colleague of psychology in the field. Now, this is when we stood together for conference organization, and you can see the tallest guy is Professor Michael Bond. Well, I've said this much for this talk. I hope you'll remember what I've said to you and exercise them in your own writing. And I wish you good luck. That is all for this talk. Thank you.